to turn to the NBA player most recently in an NBA locker room and get your thoughts on these cryptic comments from up above from a team executive, and in this case, the president of the New York Knicks.
I don't like it at all. I don't think it's fair to Carmelo Anthony. I don't think this is the way you do business. Great franchises, and Sam will tell you, it starts from the top all the way down. Your GMs and front office people set the tone, then that trickles down to your coaches, and from your coaches, it trickles down to your players. Well, Phil Jackson is being a poor example. He's not around when times are tough. He's sending out cryptic messages, taking shots at Carmelo Anthony. And for all Carmelo Anthony's faults, he's handled things perfectly this year. I think it's poor on Phil Jackson's part. I think he needs to knock it off and handle this in a professional manner. He can no longer act like Phil Jackson, the coach, that used to take shots at people because he was a coach and he had that demeanor, he had that type of, he could do that because he had won so many rings. As a GM, you haven't proven yourself. So you can't treat people like this, and he needs to understand that this franchise starts and stops with him. He can't come out there like that.
As a coach, he also had daily interactions with his players and presumably a closer personal relationship with his players, which he doesn't have as a president of the team. They didn't have social media when you were playing Fat, which is, I think you're probably thankful for that. But do you recall anything similar of an owner or an executive going after a player in this way?
Well, I haven't, but at the same time, it's one of those situations where the decision makers have to make decisions. If you want to make a decision, you make the decision and you live with it. But at the same time, when Phil is monitoring players, this is not Michael. This is not guys that you see down on the court every day that you're working with. You've got to go find Carmelo Anthony, not sit down with him at dinner or somewhere like that, on the court in an atmosphere where he's happy at. And then at that point, you have the discussion with him and see what he's doing on the court. But at the end of the day, Phil Jackson needs to make a decision, and that decision, good or bad or indifferent, you're in that position to make decision, make it and move on for the safety and the sanity of this team.
Of course, the problem with that is that Carmelo Anthony holds the hammer with the no-trade clause. It seems Phil's made his decision,
well, sit
at
him.
least in his opinion.
Go to your coach, you sit him. You sit him. You want to win games. One of the things I looked at when I watched Kobe play last year, the Lakers did a great thing as far as sending Kobe off. And he went out in fantastic fashion. It helped to stop the growth of that team. And this year, you see a lot more growth. So you have to make that decision if you sit him and play him when you want to. But you've got to find out who are the players that you're going to develop in this league, in this team. Where's this team want to go? If you're this close in the playoffs, getting to the playoffs may be a goal, but at the end of the day, how far are you going to go in that playoff?
You know, Harvey suggested that if the trade deadline comes and goes and Melo is still on that roster, that the Knicks can try to move forward, make a playoff push. Can they flip that switch and ignore all this history that's building up?
I think they can, Matt, for the simple reason how Carmelo Anthony has handled all this. Look, he's probably frustrated on the inside. You can tell by his play. He's not playing like the guy. Yeah, he's getting 22, 23 points tonight, but he's not the same efficient Carmelo Anthony that we've seen. And to Brendan's point, listen, when Phil Jackson coached Kobe and Michael, listen to what I'm saying. He coached. He was with them every day. He was on the floor in practice. He was on the plane. He was in the locker room. That was a day-to-day interaction. If you're trying to change something about my game, you got to be with me on a day-to-day basis and keep pointing out, keep drilling in me why it's important for me to change. And then you're there to pat me on the back when I'm doing it, to keep encouraging me, but you're also there to kick me in the rear end when I'm not. That's a day-to-day grind and interaction with a player if you want him to change. It's extremely difficult to be upstairs and to get your message through the media. He's basically communicating with Carmelo Anthony through the media in a negative way. And I'll say this last. The guys in the locker room are sitting there saying, if he would do this with Carmelo Anthony, what would he do to me? If he's talking about Carmelo Anthony in the news to the media like this, what will he do to me?